Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu gave the famous khutbah there at Jabiyah. What a khutbah it was, Ya Allah. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu met quite a few people. He wanted some water, and the water was presented to him. And when asked, where's this water from? And they told him, one lady, an elderly lady, Hazrat Umar went to visit her and invited her to Islam. She then removed her scarf and she showed how old she was and how her hair had totally become white. Hazrat Umar cried. Why did he cry? That an elderly woman who had exerted herself, but if she doesn't bring Iman, then what would happen? Jahannam would be her lot. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu showed pity. Let's take this lesson from Sahabar radiallahu anhum. Let's take pity unto humanity. This is our deen. Our deen is mercy. Our deen is love. Our deen is to show mercy unto humanity. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu invited her to Islam, this elderly lady. Invite the people to Allah Ta'ala. Reading this incident, this inspired me. This few days ago, I asked, who's the oldest person in this area? Yeah, it was one lady who was responsible for building the temple nearby. Yeah. So we went to visit her, 90 years old. So when she asked, why have you come? So we said we come from the masjid to visit you for the pleasure of Allah. And she got so happy. We gave her a gift of khajur and some kulunji and some figs, and we spoke to her about Allah. She was so touched with Islam, and we told her about deen. We gave her some literature, and we made her ikram, and we spoke about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where we learned this from? This is Sahaba radiallahu anhum's practice. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu visited this lady. A man comes to Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. This Allama ibn Kathir rahimahullah mentions in Bidayah wa Nihaya. He says, do you remember me? Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu was reluctant and then remembered. He was a man who, when Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, years ago in his youth, it was early, when Hazrat Umar was young in Makkah, it was before the advent of Islam, he was a shepherd of his father's camels, and his father was very rough and harsh with Hazrat Umar, and he would insist that Umar should stay far off outside Medina in the wilderness, grazing his herds of camels. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, whenever he would go to see to the needs of his aunts, and come back to Makkah to fulfill his own necessities and needs, his father would very, very harshly reprimand him, saying, who would take care of the flock? And Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu would have to rush back. And when he sought his father's permission to do trade, his father totally refused and said, where would you get the money from? And in this, alone in the wilderness, his brother comes to him with his savings, Zayd ibn al-Khattab. And he says, Umar, this is for you. He says, why my brother? He says, no, you wanted to do trade, you go to Sham and do trade. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu went to the lands of Sham. And one day as he was doing some trade, he was a very straight person. One man comes to him and calls him to do some menial work without any pay. Hazrat Umar says, please excuse me, I'm not here for this, I'm here on trade. But it was the Roman people's nature to look down upon others and belittle them and disgrace foreigners. Allah save us. As Muslims, this is not the trait of a Muslim. A Muslim loves everyone. And if someone comes from far, a Muslim should take more pity on this person, understanding that this person's father and mother are far away. This person's family is away. We must be family this person, befriend this person and become his brother. And a sister must become her sister, and like this serve humanity for Allah's sake. Anyway, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu pushed him away and then escaped from there. This man chased Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. In this, one priest sees Hazrat Umar running and he pulls him in and he takes him into his monastery or his church, and he then conceals him. And when they couldn't find him, he served Hazrat Umar with whatever he could and fed him and took care of him. Hazrat Umar, astonished with this man then comes with the document saying, please sign this. Hazrat Umar says, why? He says, when you become the ruler of this entire region. Hazrat Umar is actually laughing at what this person is saying, that where possible. How is this possible? Me, ruler of this entire... He says, please brother, just sign this. When you become the ruler of this entire region, you'll see me right. Hazrat Umar says, please, there's not a possibility. He says that just sign this. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu obliged. And he comes to Hazrat Umar on this occasion. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu took care of him and remembered him. And Ya Allah, when the priests saw and the bishops and the clergy saw Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, they were shocked at his appearance, his akhlaq, his way. He came in. The keys of Palestine was handed over to Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. And he went in with them and they had this meeting in Palestine. And by the famous church of the Christians, Kanisatul Qiyamah, this document was written where there was a peace treaty where Muslims would take over and the Christians would be given amnesty and peace, and they would be given the permission to actually practice their religion and come for their pilgrimage, and they would be respected for their religion, and they would be given the protection of Allah Ta'ala, and they would be given the protection of His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Khulafa, as long as they pay the jizya. It was such an amazing treaty of respect. It's written in the letter that Hazrat Khalid radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Amr bin As, Hazrat Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu anhum witnessed the letter, and Hazrat Abdul Rahman and Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhuma wrote and documented the letter. Then came the time of Salah, and the bishops insisted that Hazrat Umar pray right there. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu refused. He says, this is not where I will pray. And when asked why, he says, I do not want anybody to claim the right of this church of yours.